Okay, welcome back everybody. So I've recorded this video before, but for some reason I deleted it, so now we're just going to have to start again from the beginning here. So apologies for this being late, and apologies if the Delta Math help video didn't help so much. So today we're going to be talking about multiplying and dividing radicals. So the main idea when you're multiplying and dividing radicals is you want to keep what's outside outside and what's inside inside, and at the end you want to simplify. So I'm just going to write that down really quickly here. So the main idea is to keep what's outside outside and what's inside inside. All right, so I'm going to show you what I mean by that. But when you're multiplying two radicals together, let's look at multiplication first. Let's say we have, let's do the most common situation where people will teach this is to show something that's nice and neat to do, like say the square root of 4 times the square root of 9. Now, generally, right, to find out what these two square roots are, because these are nice, neat, perfect squares, we know that the square root of 4 is 2, because 2 times 2 is 4, and there's nothing left inside the house. And the square root of 9 is 3. We know that when these two multiply together, they should be equal to 6. And we want to know if that's going to be the same if we multiply what's inside the square roots here. So inside the square roots, if I do 4 times 9, that means that this is the same thing as the square root of 36, because 4 times 9 is 36. And the square root of 36 is 6. So when you're multiplying things together, if there's something inside the house, inside the radical, you just multiply those together, and then at the end, you simplify. Now, the same works true for dividing. If I were to switch these, and instead of be doing multiplication, be doing dividing, let's say I was doing, I don't know, let's do square root 100 divided by the square root of 25. I want to know if this is going to be the same as the square root of, and then 100 divided by 25 inside here. Yes, Yoda, I know. She hears me talking. She wants some attention. All right. So now we already know, because it's a nice, neat, perfect square, that the square root of 100 is 10. And the square root of 25 is 5. So this is the same as 10 over 5, which is the same as 2. Now we want to check to see if that's going to be the same on the other side of the square root. Now 100 divided by 25, since it's inside the square root, you can now do that operation. 100 divided by 25 is 4, and so the square root of 4 is still 2. So if you have operations inside the square root, you can just perform, or sorry, if you have operations outside the square root with two different roots, you can just perform that operation inside one root, whether it's multiplication or division. Now, this is the simplest way it's going to show up on today's Delta Math assignment. Let's look at an example that's a bit more complicated, one that has both numbers inside and numbers outside. So let's say we have something like 2 times the square root of 12 times, let's do 3 times the square root of, let's do 15. Now there's a few different ways that you could go about this to begin with. Girl. You could multiply first and then simplify, or you could simplify first and then multiply. And honestly, both methods are pretty much the same. I like to multiply first and then simplify, but your mileage may vary. So I'm going to do number times number first. So 2 times 3 is 6. And then what's inside the house multiplies by what's inside the house. So 12 times 15. Let's see, 5 times 12 is 60. 10 times 12 is 120. So that's 180. Now, 180, I need to check to see if this will simplify any. So if I break this down, I'm going to say 180 is the same thing as, I'm going to do 3 times 60. 3 is prime. 60, I'm going to break down into 5 and 12. 5 is prime. 12, I'm going to break down into 4 and 3. 3 is prime. And 4 breaks down into 2 and 2. All right. So now I'm looking for pairs in here, and any pair can go outside the house. So I have a pair of 3s, so I'm going to cross these out. I'm going to add a 3 on the outside. Now when this 3 gets added to the outside, it's, good lord, it's going to multiply by anything that's already out there. So I'm just going to add a little multiplication symbol here so I don't forget. There's not a pair of 5s, but there is a pair of 2s. So I'm going to cross out both 2s and add a times 2 on the outside. Now on the outside, I've got 2 times 3 times 6. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 6 is 36 for the outside. And now the only thing left for inside the house is 5. So this is 36 times the square root of 5. All right, let's take a look at how this is going to show up actually on Delta Math here by going through a few examples together. So let's go to my desktop here. And is it in here? Yeah. Let's make that nice and big. All right, now, so in this case, this one is a little bit different. It's got some division involved here. Now for this one, you don't have 2 square roots, so you don't have to put the division inside the square root because there's not 2 square roots. Instead, you would simplify the numerator, and then whatever's left over, divide by 9. So let's simplify the numerator here. If I have 180, that can break down into, let's do 3 and 60 again, like I did before. 60 I'm going to break down into 5 and 12, where 5 is prime. 12 I'm going to break down into 4 and 3. 3 is prime. And then 4 breaks into 2 and 2, where both 2 and 2 are prime. All right. Now again, there's one set of 2's, so I'm going to put a 2 on the outside. Cross them out so I don't forget. There's a set of 3's, so I'm going to cross those out and put a 3 on the outside. And then there's nothing left for the 5, so the 5 goes inside the square root. And then this is over 9. So now, 2 times 3 is 6. So 6 is outside the house. 5 is still inside the house. And 9 is on the bottom. And you do need to reduce this as a fraction. Now, reducing it as a fraction, you cannot reduce this 5 with the 9 because one's inside the square root and the other's not inside the square root. But you can reduce the 6 and the 9 because you can divide them both by 3. If you divide 6 by 3, you get 2. Divide 9 by 3, you get 3. So the final answer here ends up being 2 radical 5. And remember to arrow out so you're not in the square root anymore. Not minus. Divided by 3. Okay, let's take a look at another example here. Let's clear this off. All right, so new problem. Okay, product in math means multiply. So what's the product of radical 6 and 10 radical 12 in simplest radical form? So to do that, I'm just going to rewrite them here so I can actually look at the multiplication. So I've got square root of 6 times 10 square root of 12. Now, just like with variables, if there's no number in front of a square root, the number that's really there is 1. So when I'm multiplying this through, I'm going to do outside times outside. So 1 times 10 is 10. Inside times inside, 6 times 12 is 72. And now I need to check to see if 72 can simplify. So let's see, I can break it into 6 and 12. 6 I can break into 2 and 3, which are both prime. 12 I can break into 2 and 6. 2 is prime, but 6 isn't. And 6 I can break into 2 and 3, both prime. So now there's a pair of 2's, so I'm going to cross out 2 of the 2's, and I'm going to put a 2 on the outside with my 10 here. There's a pair of 3's, so I'm going to cross out the 3's. I'm going to put a 3 on the outside with my 10 and my 2. There's not another pair of 2's though, so this 2 has to stay inside the house. So outside the house, I've got 3 times 2, which is 6, times 10, which is 60. So 60 goes outside. And then inside the house is just that 2. And there we go. Okay. feel free to try this on your own. If you need help, please let me know. I'll help you. Send me an email or leave a comment or something like that, and we can kind of go back and forth on it. Yeah, I know this is like a learning experience for everybody, so we're all kind of learning here. Cool. I hope everybody has themselves a good day.